Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So working some more on the lighthouse here on this third pass. Yeah, haven't got as much done as I'd hoped in between this session and the last. I think I was fighting the same virus my husband had because I was feeling really tired. Luckily, no other symptoms, so yeah. I'm better now. Ready to stitch some more. Okay, so we got more threads this time. So there are just more colors in this area. But then the further down we go, there's going to be fewer colors as we get back into the hills and the water again. So yeah, we still do not have snow, which is very unusual for us this time of year. And oh, I parked something wrong, didn't I? Yep, I can see that right off the bat. Huh. Okay, I'm just gonna put this here temporarily, just for now. Yeah, this one I parked one row over from where it should be. My gosh. Yeah, it shouldn't have been right up against the grid line. It should have been a stitch away from it. And I think, yeah, I marked. Oh no, I'm still one off. I should be another stitch down. I tell you. I don't usually park things wrong, but every now and then, yeah. There we go. I was still looking at this highlighted color that mixed me up. Anyway, I was saying that, oh, and then I almost put this new stitch in the wrong place. Boy, that would have been not the best beginning, hey? Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, very unusual to not have snow. And I looked at the 2-week forecast and it's still not calling for any snow. So if the predictions are correct, we are not going to have snow for Christmas this year, which will be first time in 12 years that that's happened. So yeah. And we'll see if it makes up for it next in the new year. Sometimes we have that if we don't have a lot of snow in the beginning of the winter, it makes up for it later, but they are saying it's going to be a very mild winter, so we shall see. We shall also see how my apple tree does, because I have found from experience that if we don't have a really good freeze the winter before, then I don't get a good harvest in this, not as good of a harvest in the spring. So yeah, we'll see. My apple tree was like bred for these climates, and yeah, like I said, I've just noticed that the years we have a colder winter, we have a better harvest in the spring. So we will see, but last harvest was wild. We got over 90 liters of juice, and that was concentrate too, so yeah. Water it down almost to half and half because it's very strong, so yeah, you do the math, that is a ton of juice. Yeah, I've had my husband take boxes of juice into the office for his coworkers because we cannot possibly drink it all before the next harvest. Yeah, so I finally made our gingerbread house, and you'll never guess what I did this year. I forgot to put in the baking soda, of all things. So fortunately, it turned out to be, oh, what is that? Oh, that looks terrible. Yeah, did not come up in the, go down in the correct spot, so let's try that again. One thing I like about this stitching right next to stuff I just stitched is if I do that, I tend to notice it before. It becomes much more difficult to fix. That's better. I didn't quite pierce in the right spot and it was looking a little bit sloppy. So there we go. That's better. Anyway, so for a 6 cups of flour recipe, there's like a tablespoon plus a teaspoon of baking soda, so it's not a ton. And thankfully, they didn't turn out rock hard, which would have been, you know, my worry. I guess because you cut in all the fat and stuff, it makes enough layers that I guess it like, I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm no scientist. But anyway, like I said, they didn't turn out rock hard. They're a teeny bit more brittle than usual, but we made our gingerbread house out of it and it didn't collapse, so we'll call it a win. Oh dear. Yeah, but yeah, I couldn't figure out when I was taking them out of the oven. I was thinking these don't look quite the same, but I couldn't figure out what I did properly or did differently. And yeah, that was it. So, oh dear. You would think by now I would have that recipe memorized because I have made it like every year for over 20 years, but no. It's like when I make homemade mac and cheese, every time I have to look at how much milk I need, even though, like I said, I've made it so many times, you would think I could have it memorized, but I don't. Oh, in fact, I went through my recipes and I typed up all my favorites and I uploaded them to my cloud service, so that way, yeah, if there's ever like a fire or something, because I said I'd be really sad to lose my favorite recipes. It's taken a long time to get my collection together. Yeah. And some of them are just like pages I tore out of a magazine, so to try to find it again would be, yeah, close to impossible. Yeah, like a lot of them were reader submitted recipes, so, you know, I wouldn't even know where to start looking for them again if I were to try to find them. And some of them are from older, like magazines from like the 70s and stuff too. Yeah. But yeah, so gingerbread, it's a little more crumbly, but it still tastes good. And yeah, I made 2 batches. I often make 2, so one sort of for the gingerbread house and one so we can have lots of cookies. And I made both batches before realizing I forgot the the ruddy baking soda. So, oh, I was so worried about getting enough flour, because that's what happened in 2020 is we miscounted the flour and we were missing 1 cup of it, and so gingerbread house collapsed. And that was the year we said, my son said we made a gingerbread rubble instead of a gingerbread house. And so I was always so concerned about that, or getting the right amount of spice in there, that, yeah, I completely forgot about the baking soda. You would think I would remember because leavening agent is kind of critical for baking, but I don't know. Oh, just had a total space out. Oh my gosh. And like I said, for both batches, I did that. Oh my gosh. Ah, well, cook enough and eventually you're gonna have stories to tell of epic fails, right? I guess do anything enough times for long enough, you're gonna have at least once where things just went terribly wrong. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like the time my grandma was making soup, and she accidentally grabbed the container of the lemon Kool-Aid instead of the chicken stock. Yeah, and she didn't notice, and then yeah, everyone said, you know, why does this taste funny? And yeah, have a glass of Kool-Aid. Wait a minute, that's not Kool-Aid. Oh, one time I wanted to make a dipping sauce with I like Greek yogurt. It has a really nice tang to it, and then you put, you know, whatever herbs or spices or whatever you want in it. So it was dill, garlic, and some other stuff. And silly me, I did not look at the label properly when I bought it, and I accidentally bought the vanilla one instead of the plain yogurt one. Yeah, so it had this like dill and garlic and then like this weird sweet tang to it. Oh, it was not good. And my son loved it. Like, go figure, this kid, total picky eater, and he loved it. He ate the whole bowl. Because yeah, I tried, I dipped a, you know, piece of potato in it, and I ate it, and why does that taste so weird? And then I thought, oh, wait a minute, looked at the container, and yeah, vanilla. Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess at least I didn't mix up the whole container of yogurt, so it was still edible as yogurt, but oh my gosh. It's funny though, my mom, she always alters recipes with baking because she wants them to be healthier, so she'll cut way down on like the butter and stuff. But then she's like, well, why is it different? I'm like, well, because you change the proportions. Like, if it calls for a cup of butter and you use a quarter cup of butter, of course it's going to be mega dry, you know. I know there are ways to get around that. Like, there was one where they were making muffins, and instead of that much oil, they used applesauce. But my mom would just like cut down on the oil and not replace it with like any other wet ingredients. So I mean, of course, it'd be super dry, right? Yeah, I remember when I moved out and I started baking things actually to the recipe and going, whoa, man, how good these taste. Yeah, I mean, they said that's the secret too. It really usually is butter, salt, and sugar. That is what we like. Yeah, I was reading like somebody said secrets of restaurants, and some guy said people would always ask them, you know, what's the secret to the asparagus? And he's like, yeah, it's just that it's drowning in butter. Yeah. Okay, so again, some of this color kind of slopes out this way, and I may follow it. I haven't really decided yet. And then further down, we're going to get into some more bigger blocks of colors. So actually, I may go right to this corner here and fill in for a bit. Yeah, so without the snow though, it's been nice. Like I said, I can still do my walks outside. There's been enough sun and warm days over the last week or so that the sidewalks are pretty much clear. So, except usually right where it crosses someone's driveway. I guess if they didn't clear their driveway completely and it had snow on it, then when it melts and runs off and then refreezes on the sidewalk, so that's where I have to be more careful. Yeah, is where the sidewalk intersects someone's driveway. That's often where I have to. step off the sidewalk and instead walk on the grass for a few steps so I don't wipe out. But yeah, all in all, it's been pretty nice. Just like I said, I hope that doesn't mean we're in for a really bad fire season next summer like we had this last summer. It was terrible. I said the worst in like 50 years or something. Yeah. Yeah, my mom grew up in the tropics, and when she came to Canada, she came during one of the worst cold snaps like ever. So yeah, she went from where, you know, it never goes below 20 Celsius, which is quite warm. I'm not sure what it is in Fahrenheit, but you'll have to look it up. But yeah, it's nice. And to, you know, minus 40. It's quite a shock. Yeah, it was funny because we were watching Leverage the other day, and there was one part where one of the characters had to go into a freezer to retrieve something, and they had oh my gosh, it's minus 20 Celsius, you know, your core temperature will drop in a minute, you'll be in danger of dying. And I'm like, minus 20? For Pete's sake, I don't even put a coat on when I go to take the garbage out when it's only minus 20. That's nothing. Yeah, we were laughing about that on the latest Legend of Zelda game, because he's sensitive to temperatures. So like if you go into the desert, you have to have proper clothing on or you'll overheat. And if you go up too high in the mountains, you have to have a proper winter coat or you'll freeze. And yeah, it was like he was shivering, and he couldn't go any further. And it was like only minus 10. We're just like, oh, come on, Link, you know, some hero you are. What a wimp. But then I said, when I lived on Vancouver Island, minus 10 I found so cold. So yeah, it's only because I've become acclimated to dealing with minus 40 that minus 10 feels like nothing. Okay, I'm going to unthread that for now because that piece is super short. Okay, 562 green. I think I'm going to end up doing, yeah, one out of order here. I can see just from the way the colors are going that it's going to be more trouble than it's worth to me, and I don't want to do separate threads for just a stitch or two, so not when I don't have any leftover small pieces. If I do, then it kind of works out well, but not this time. So I'm going to go outside my guidelines and do one out of order. Can you tell which one? So yeah, I'm going to start here and do this one, and this one, and then I'm going to park. So yeah, I'm excited to get to this peacock's tail feathers, but that's probably not going to be for another couple of months. And I'm not going to make any firm predictions because, like I said, I don't seem to be able to keep them lately, and it was just stressing me out. So we started this month at 24.5. We're now at 25.5%. Okay, this piece is not very long, so I'm going to carry it down instead of up. and just do these 2 stitches, and then we will be tying that off. So yeah, how long a thread is often one of the biggest factors in deciding how far I'm going to carry and park threads. So yeah, like I said, this kind of slopes along this way. So I may sort of start to slope the stitching that way and fill in from there, which is what I've been doing lately. So yeah, this one is out of order a little bit, but I don't feel like filling in everything above there. Again, because all those colors are kind of also sloping the same way. So I may just establish an edge here and then continue growing from it, even if it does sort of close in a little bit. Yeah, once I sort of get down at the shoreline, the water is not as many colors, so that will also go more quickly. Yeah, at the end of the pass was all those flowers and vines, and so it was a lot of detail work, so that slowed me down quite a bit. So here's where I will get to sort of pick up the pace for a while. But yeah, once we get to the tail feathers, then it's gonna slow down again because that's quite a lot of detail. Yeah, I don't think in this pass we get any of the second peacock at all. Yeah, I say the peacock, but there's actually 2 of them in this picture. I love these bright, vibrant colors. Yeah, there's been some patterns that I've looked at and thought they're really nice, but there were a lot of shades of brown and gray, and I wasn't sure if that would bore me. Yeah, I have found that a bit with Firefly, that it's a much darker palette and it can be harder for me to work on. I didn't think that it would affect me that much, but maybe I should have been prepared because, like I said, I'm really sensitive to changes in light, which is why winter is harder for me because there's less sunlight. So yeah, maybe I should have counted on that. It could also be I'm stitching on 18 count, which I'm still not used to. I've stitched on 14 count for so many years that is what I'm used to. Okay, actually, I'm going to do these 2 up here. Trying to cut down on how many I do out of order as much as possible. Try to leave as few gaps as possible. Yeah, I say I find it a little bit neater, but my biggest thing is I make fewer counting mistakes this way. Yeah, when I'm skipping around and leaving gaps, then I'm more likely to accidentally do a stitch 3 squares away when it should have been 2 and stuff like that. Yeah, I saw somebody who was doing the extreme cross country, so they do one color across the entire piece, and they had no grid either. It's just like, wow, you are so much braver than me. And maybe just better at counting. But then maybe that's to be expected from someone who will forget to put the baking soda into their baking. Okay. I'm gonna need another new strand. There's a lot of this color being used in this area, so we are blasting through it. Yeah, I say winter blahs, but so far, fingers crossed, this year has not been as bad. Yeah, it often hits me at time change and it's really bad, but this year hasn't been so much, so maybe it'll hit me later, but I'm hoping that it won't. Maybe because this year has been milder, the colder it is, then yeah. It's also been kind of nice because I don't have to really go out as much now that my kiddo can drive himself to and from school. Yeah, that's one nice thing too, is it hasn't been too cold yet, so he is still able to use his vehicle as it's a diesel, and yeah, when it gets too cold, they won't start. And he's saying, well, I can borrow your car. I'm like, well, sometimes, but you know, sometimes mom's gonna need it too. But yeah, he's been handling when there's been ice on the roads very well, so yeah, that's always my worry. Although he did get practice while he was learning. My husband took him out to empty parking lots so he could practice what it feels like when you skid and then how to regain control. And he also took driver's ed through the school, and they took the kids out in the ice and stuff so that they could get used to it. Because yeah, around here, learning to drive on icy roads is critical, because we have it for at least 6 months of the year, sometimes up to 8, depending. Yeah, it was funny because like I said, I grew up on Vancouver Island, and I never really understood the whole spring cleaning thing, because there it's generally warm enough you can open your windows most of the year if you need to air things out. But then once we moved here, it's like, oh, that's why, because yeah, you can't open the windows all winter. It's way too cold. So yeah, when spring comes, yeah, that's the time to open up the windows and get, you know, the dust off of everything, and get fresh air into the house. So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna follow this, the way this is sloping outwards, and then fill in probably until I get to the actual lighthouse spire, which is then goes pretty much straight. So that'll be a normal place to sort of straighten it back out again. Our natural break point. Yeah. Where's my, oh there, I accidentally put 501 behind 519 instead of in front of it. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I am sloping the other way, but still trying to grow out from the established stitches there. Yeah, so cutting it off at this grid line for now, and then I'll fill in all of that, and then I will head back and fill in more downwards. So I'm going to be stitching up or down to row 100 or 200, I should say. Yeah, because I start at 140 as the top of this pass, and I'm going to make it 60 rows tall. So yeah, 60 is sort of what fits comfortably in my frame for this count. If you were using a higher count of fabric, then obviously you could go more. Yeah, like someone was saying, they stitch on like 25 count, and so a standard size page from a Heaven and Earth Designs pattern sort of fits comfortably in their frame without having to move it. Yeah, I don't stitch by page anymore, so I don't have that. Plus, yeah, I use 14 count, so obviously a lot fewer stitches are going to fit in an area as opposed to 25 count or even higher. Oh man, it was funny. I was just remembering there was a Christmas episode of Malcolm in the Middle, and they decided to invest in selling Christmas trees to make some money. And of course, they keep running into more and more problems. Oh, it's funny because, pardon me, Malcolm says tree 64 is the profit tree or whatever. And then his brother, who's, you know, not so bright, says, well, why don't we sell that tree first? He means, of course, we have to sell 64 trees, right? And then, of course, it keeps getting adjusted because the Christmas tree lot down the block like scares them off. Turns out they don't have a permit that they were supposed to get, and the police tell them to clear out and all this stuff. And finally, at the end, they actually managed to sell one more tree because a guy comes to the door asking for something, and basically the dad begs him, and then they're saying, oh, we're profitable, right? They're so excited, and he's telling his wife, we're profitable. How much did we make? Oh, that's not important. We're profitable. You know, every time somebody tries to ask them how much they make, you can't pin them down. And then at the end, Malcolm says, and we're profitable. And he holds out like a quarter. Like, technically they made a profit, but it was, like not even a buck. Yeah, it was quite funny. And when they had to get all of the trees off of the yard, and they had to bring them in the house, so the whole house was full of them. And then, they had... somebody was visiting and says, oh, your family really loves Christmas. It's even Christmas in the bathroom. Yeah, that show was funny. It was too bad you couldn't get it on DVD because they didn't get the music rights. Because, it was made in the late 90s, early 2000s, and that was before they really needed distribution rights. The idea that people would actually buy a TV show to own, to watch in their own home, kind of wasn't really a thing yet, so, yeah. And apparently, distribution rights can be quite expensive, especially if you didn't get them when you were initially getting the rights to use. They just got the broadcast rights, and, So they said that's why you haven't been able to get the Wonder Years yet, even though a lot of people would want it. And Cold Case never came out on DVD because same thing. And they couldn't really cut out the music because, it was kind of an integral part of the storytelling. So, because, they would pick music that was popular from the year the original case was set in, and they would pick music that was fitting to the story. So, you really couldn't cut it out without losing a very vital part of the storytelling, in my opinion. So, but... streaming rights and broadcast rights are very similar, or even under the same umbrella. I'm not sure. I'm no copyright lawyer, but they had it available on Prime. So my son and I binged it this summer. Yeah, I was really sad when that show ended. Would love if they decided to reboot it because I think it could still work. I mean, it went for, I think, 6 seasons or something. So, I mean, it had a decent run. Not like a lot of shows these days that, yeah. Yeah, like I was saying, it frustrates me because some networks especially are really bad for airing like maybe the pilot and like another episode or two and then they just give up. It's like, you didn't even give people a chance, you know. They want shows to be an instant hit, and sometimes that's just not the way it happens. Okay, like they said, Firefly, they gave up after only like a handful of episodes had aired. And I mean, the way people still love the show over 20 years later, yeah, they really cheated themselves out of what would have been a very successful franchise if they just hadn't been so darn impatient. Yeah, it was funny because I watched Castle and they often made references to Firefly in Castle. Like there's one where he for Christmas he's dressed in obvious like the brown coat with the leather glove and everything. And his daughter says, you know, Dad, what are you dressed as? And he says, I'm Space Cowboy, you know, and she says, oh, that was years ago, you know, shouldn't you have gotten over it by now? Which was obviously a little wink and a nod to Firefly fans, yeah. So, and then there was a convention he goes to where there's a fictional show they called Nebula 9 or something like that because there were 9 sort of main characters in Firefly, so it was a nod to that. And yeah, the bad guys were called Creevers, and on Firefly they were Reavers. So yeah, it was not done subtly, but on purpose, right? So yeah. And what's his name? Adam Baldwin appeared on Castle. And at one point, what was it? Castle, Nathan Fillion's character is wearing like a brown coat and he says, nice coat. He says, oh, it looked better on you. And he gives it to him, right? Yeah, because he had the brown coats. So yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I said to my husband watching Castle, I mean, I enjoy it for the mystery and all that, but I said it was almost worth it just for the Firefly references. Yeah. Oh, and I love there's part where he's signing books and they had Jonathan Frakes, who of course played Riker on Star Trek, get something signed by him and he says, I'm your #1 fan, because of course he was called #1, right, by Picard on The Next Generation. So yeah, and it's funny because I didn't catch that immediately and then it was like, oh, #1, I get it. Yeah, it was lots of fun. Okay, so like I said, I'm gonna, yeah, grow from these edges here. It will close in a little bit, but that's just how I've chosen to stitch it today. And then, yeah, there's a bit more here on the roof line, and then, yeah, I can see there's like a straight line of stitches down here because that's the actual the actual shaft of the lighthouse. So yeah, I will sort of stitch it up to there, and then I'll probably be able to go back to my normal way of sloping my work. Yeah, and some people prefer to work straight up and down in columns too, and that's, you know, totally fine. Yeah, I was saying on Castle, it was funny. There was an episode where he opened up a sarcophagus at the museum. So then his coworkers start making him think that he has been cursed. So like they loosen the screws on his chair, so when he sits down, it breaks, you know, and yeah, until he actually starts thinking maybe he is cursed. It was quite funny. Yeah. And of course, yeah, like one or two things happened that actually they didn't plan. It was just coincidences, but it worked well into scaring him into thinking he really was cursed. Yeah, that show was fun. Although that was another one that they should have ended it before it ended. The last season was not great. Yeah. The mysteries were still good, but the chemistry between the characters was not what it once was. Apparently, I read that by the end of the show, she did not get along with him anymore. So, yeah, and it kind of showed. So, okay. Yeah, that was a show I was watching on Prime, and they threatened to take it down. And it was saying it was leaving in 2 weeks, and I had like 3 seasons left. It's like, oh, come on. And so I totally binged it, and I managed to finish it, and then they didn't take it down. And then the next month, they said it was leaving. And the same thing, they did it like 3 months in a row. It's like, oh, come on, you guys. Ugh. Yeah, like I've said, that's one thing I don't like about streaming is sometimes they take things down without warning or very little warning. And I've had times where I had a bunch of stuff saved in my watch list, and then when I finally go to watch it, it's no longer available. Like, oh, come on. Like, yeah, watching Leverage the other day, which is a show where they pull cons, but they only pull cons on bad people, so it's okay, right? And they had the first 2 seasons available on Prime, and then the last 3 were not. And I was hoping if we waited long enough they would come out, but they didn't. I don't know if it's available for like people to watch in a different country, but it wasn't available for us, and I'm not very technically minded enough to deal with getting a VPN, so I ended up buying the show on DVD to watch it. And I said that's one thing I like with DVDs is you can take as long as you want to watch it. It's not going to get canceled, right? It's not going anywhere once you own it. And also they often have bonus features and stuff that you don't get. They often don't bother putting up on the streaming service, or maybe they don't have access to it. I don't know. Maybe there's a different, rights thing happening. Yeah, because I remember after I watched ER, they had a special that was showing on Prime, but when I tried to watch it, it wasn't available in my country. So I was like, oh, come on. The rest of the show was. And that was another one. I was halfway through. They threatened to take it down. Then they didn't. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's been taken down now, but I finished it. So, yeah, I don't really care at this point. Okay, so I can see I'm probably going to have multiple strands going here of different colors. Or I may do stuff out of order. It kind of depends. Yeah. The way it's kind of... Yeah. The way they're scattered sometimes. Oh, look at that. I have 1,111 of this stitch, of this color left to stitch. 4 ones in a row. Okay. So I can see I'm going to be branching off with at least 2 strands here. Yeah, because there's kind of an upper one and a lower one, at least to my eye, the way I stitch. That seems like a good place to split them up. Goodness, little trimmed bits sometimes just stick around. Well, even with all these color changes, I still have still made some good progress. We're past 125 stitches now. Okay, same thing I'm gonna have. Oh, pardon me. More than one thread here. Okay, 6, 4, 8. How much of this? There's a fair amount of this color, so yeah, I'm gonna put this in my working tray as well. Okay, I think I see. Yeah, I may do some stuff out of order on this one. Or I may use separate threads because I have some leftover shorter pieces, so I will decide as I go. A lot of threads here for a bit. Yeah. We'll see if we can manage all those needles without tangling. Knock on wood. Starting to run low on needles on my needle minder, so that's generally an indication that I'm getting to my limit of how many ones I can manage. So that's the point where I'm gonna start unthreading and rethreading when necessary. what I think I'm going to do right now. Take all of these, tuck them away because I am not currently using them. Okay, I may actually be able to get away with adding only one more strand. I don't have to cross back and forth very far, so they're only a couple of stitches apart, so yeah, rather than 3 strands, I can manage with 2, I think. So, I'll show you what I mean in a moment. Yeah, I did have some shorter ones, but I think they might be too short, so I'm going to start another long strand and then I'll end it off and save the pieces for later. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do here. Do this one in this corner and this one in that corner. Same thing, one along each edge. Then kind of park in the middle. So yeah, like I said, it does kind of close in a little bit, but not a lot. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so like I've said, I don't plan too far ahead because often if I do, my plan will end up changing anyway as I stitch. Then I just end up spending a lot of time staring at my pattern, planning paths that I end up not using anyway, so yeah. Kind of glance at it, figure out what I might do, and then adjust as I stitch if I change my mind. Yeah, we're gonna have more of this when we reach the peacock's chest too, since of the way I already looked earlier, the colors are sloping that way as they do. They reach sort of the edge of his chest and into his belly. that is not good. Yeah, that was crossing over two bottom legs at the same time. I did that once and I didn't catch it until after I tied off the thread, and oh, that was the biggest pain to fix. Yeah, I had to snip the thread and then I had to pull it back enough that I could secure them and then restitch, and oh, it was an absolute nightmare. So, okay, so yeah, this is where I decided I'm gonna have two different threads. So one's gonna stay up and one is gonna carry along the bottom. So yeah, they branch off is what I often call it. Oh, did I sew through that thread? Oh, shoot. Yeah, I did too. Okay. Fortunately, I caught that right away, so I just unthread it, pull it back. Yeah, I pierced one of the strands of one of the parked threads there. Sewed right through it. I don't do that very often, but it does happen sometimes. Loop those around my magnets so they're a little more taut. Oh my gosh. Don't seem to be aiming very well today. Yeah, fine. As long as you pull these out slowly, usually I can get them to come out without tangling or losing the needle. Yeah, if you try to yank them out too fast, then you end up with more chance of problems. Okay. I say generally, but there's always exceptions, right? Oh, still got that one out. Okay. And this one I'm going to leave unthreaded for a while because I'm going to fill in a bit more before I get to it. So, there we go. You gonna work? Yep, gotcha. grab the correct threads as there are a lot of very similar colors here. The grid lines help me to stay on track. Either I left that unthreaded or the needle came off. Oh, no, actually, it's parked there, not in that bottom spot. colors in one area, that's for sure. And yet one more for just a single stitch. Oops, set the wrong mode. There we go. See, I'll leave that threaded for now, but I may not get to it for a bit. Well, I almost got to a straight edge, but because of where I parked this one, not quite. That's okay though. So yeah, I stitched a little bit different today. It's because of the way the colors were sloping across this pattern, but I am happy with the end results. Oh, I'm gonna just check how long is this piece that I parked up here. Oh yeah, it's long enough for the other stitches, and it will be further to reach with this strand that I'm currently stitching with. So this is the one I'm going to end off, and the other strand will be the one I carry on with. So yeah, I had things curving like that for a while, and now they're pretty much back on track. A couple of exceptions there, but other than that, yeah, we did quite a lot today, almost 200 stitches. So yeah, had a bit of a longer session today. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you here next time. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.